Todo en la vida comienza con una idea. Ese proceso es uno solitario, pero créanme, eso es lo que me encanta. Pues aunque ustedes han sido pieza clave en el éxito de esta idea, son más parte del resultado, pero no del proceso. Piensen en los nombres, que quizás nadie lo intenta, porque es complicado. Si les soy sincero, yo no soy fanático de hacer estas cosas, pero hay momentos que nos pegan, que realmente nos llevan a reflexionar. Este proyecto no iba a pasar, pero la idea fue tan fuerte que sola nos trazó el camino.
Down to the fallout growing from that World Series cheating scandal. The Red Sox firing manager Alex Cora helped both the Houston Astros and the Red Sox.
Did he get him? He did!
Good shot.
Good shot. That was 3 of 15 beyond the arc. Correa and Westbrook getting after each other now.
Well, thank you for this huge opportunity of being here in Vegas. It's funny because this is my first time here in Vegas. I've never been here. So we're gonna bring our mixologist here in order, he's gonna bring some cocktails, at least for me, to calm my nerves. So Kenny, come in. He's Kenny, Bob Arum. I would like what you have for me?
De la línea de P.F. Chang,
Okay.
Estaremos utilizando Dual 15 y estaremos haciendo una costelería con Dual 15.
Pues perfecto. Si le puedes traer alguito, agua o él,
Okay.
perfecto. ¿Está bien?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so I don't even know when this started, but in the past 5 to 10 years, I have noticed how fans all over sports have been so engaged in this heated debate of who's the GOAT. In different sports, basketball, baseball, boxing, even music. So I don't want you to be shy, because with all your success and all the things that you have accomplished, this one is gonna be for the fans. So, as a boxing promoter, is Bob Arum the GOAT, the greatest boxing promoter of all time?
That's not to be decided by me. I mean, that's, a question that I can't answer. It's a question that the fans can try to answer, because obviously there were promoters before I became active, and promoters before most of the people watching this were born. Mm-hmm. How good were they? And how do I measure up? That's not for me to say. It really isn't.
Well, for me, it's an honor to be here, and for me, you're right there with all of them.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's probably true, but that doesn't make me the GOAT, the greatest of all time. That I wouldn't know.
All right. So let me understand this. When I was getting prepared for this interview, I was impressed because you graduated from Harvard, you were an honor student, you worked at the Department of Justice in the Kennedy administration, and I need to understand or know how it happened that you ended up being a boxing promoter.
Well, you're correct. I joined the government, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan, the Southern District, and Bobby Kennedy was the Attorney General, and he selected me to handle a matter of some concern to the government, which led to the seizure of all the proceeds from the Patterson-Liston fight, which was at that point the biggest fight of all time. Took place in 1961. And in handling that case, and particularly taking the deposition of Roy Cohn, the infamous Roy Cohn, the Donald Trump mentor, which he later became, who was promoting that fight, I learned about the boxing business. And when I left in 1965 to go into private practice, great football player, American football player, Jim Brown, introduced me to Muhammad Ali, and I became Ali's lawyer and promoter. And the first fight that I ever saw in person was the first fight I promoted, which was the heavyweight championship.
That was the first fight you ever witnessed. That's incredible.
And it was Muhammad Ali against George Chuvalo in Toronto, Canada. That took place in 1966, March of 1966.
All right, so Ali was the first boxer that you promoted, right?
Right.
And you have stated in numerous interviews that you wouldn't have been the promoter that you are today without his influence.
Well,
Can you describe that influence?
Ali was the greatest promoter ever. Ali had the instinct, and it's only instinct, where he could connect with an audience. He could say certain things that had an impact with people.
Don't worry. Okay, thank you.
I'm not getting drunk here.
No, that's lemonade. That's lemonade. That's lemonade.
Okay,
don't
good.
worry.
All
Thank you. Thank you, Kenny.
All right.
We're not trying to get you drunk. Don't worry.
So Ali had that great ability, and that really sounds like nothing, but the ability to communicate with vast numbers of people, and by saying relatively simple things that when you look back, hey, that was obvious. Well, when he said it, was not obvious.
His presence.
Yeah, the way he expressed himself.
Yes.
The way he could relate to people. And that's something that I learned from him. Not that I could ever compete with him as a communicator. Because that took an unworldly type of talent. But I learned from that how important it was to be able to reach people and to communicate and to do it simply. Because if you people who try to communicate sometimes get so involved that people get tired of listening to them and they don't pay attention, they shut them off. Well, I learned a lot from Ali. Not that I ever put myself in that category.
Well, that's great. So Ali was a boxing star at that time, and you were his promoter, but you ended up losing him. How did that happen?
No, I didn't lose him. I mean, see, that's here. I promoted Ali from when he was great, from in '66 and '67, and then he couldn't fight. Remember, for 3.5 years. Then when he came back and he fought Bonavino, which I promoted, and Joe Frazier, and then after he lost to Frazier, I promoted all of his fights from 1971 through 1974, beginning. And then King, offered him a tremendous amount of money to fight George Foreman, which King really didn't have. But I told Ali to take, I think he
the offer.
See, King offered him $5.5 million. I said, at least get $500,000 up front, because I figured it would go. And King lucked in to a guy in England who introduced him to Mobutu in Zaire, and King promoted that fight. And then King and I were sort of rivals as who was promoting Ali. But even in that period, I did the major fights. I did all of the Norton fights, both of the Spinks fights, and King did some fights. But again, I was very, very happy how my relationship continued with Ali. So the idea that I lost him. Now, after he fought Spinks, and he lost to Spinks in the first fight, and then he said to me, you got to make the rematch and so forth. And I did, but I said I'd only do it on one condition, that win or lose, you would retire. And he agreed, and indeed we paid him $250,000 after the fight to retire so we could have the WBA championship, a successor. And then a few years later, you know, people around him were hungry for money, and he agreed to fight Larry Holmes, which was an insane fight.
Yeah, it was a mistake.
He really got hurt there.
Yes. So rivalries are all over sports. Like Ali had Frazier, Larry had Magic, and nowadays LeBron has Curry. So you had Don King.
Well, LeBron and Curry, I mean, listen, that isn't...
Well, he's a rivalry
because... what about the Greek Freak? He's probably better,
he's amazing,
better than
right?
all of them, yeah.
But you think he's better than all of them?
Yeah.
That's a huge statement.
I have never seen anything like the Greek Freak.
Yes, it's amazing.
I mean, to pull down against a good team like Phoenix, 50 points in a closeout game.
5 blocks.
What?
5 blocks. He do it in both sides of the court. He's a two-way player.
Great player.
Yes, but you had a rivalry with Don King.
Yes,
Can you summarize what he meant in your life as a promoter?
Well, you know, when the rivalry is going on, it's heated and everything. But King basically was a businessman, and so when it came time to make a big fight, like Sugar Ray Leonard and Duran in 1980 in Montreal, or Trinidad and De La Hoya a number of years later, we could always come together and work for the benefit of both of us. So again, when I did fights with King, even though there was a lot of yelling and screaming, funnily enough, we got along well doing the promotions, you know, as far as the business was concerned. But other than that, we always were at each other's throats.
I know. I heard the stories.
And because King came from where he was, a lot of it became unpleasant. And that is something that I really took to heart. In other words, because he was black and I was white, and the fact that I had been with Ali and worked on, knew Martin Luther King and worked on a lot of civil rights movement. He painted me, because I was white, as the plantation owner, I was a slave master, which was not correct and not right. But knowing where King came from, he used every tool in his box
to get an advantage.
So
that competition, that rivalry, took you both to promote one of the most exciting, at least for me, fights in the 90s, Tito Trinidad against Oscar de la Hoya. I have a clip that I want to show you. I have it here with me. And I want you to be very, very honest to describe what you felt at that moment.
Which moment?
I'm going to show you right now. You're going to know quick.
In different ways, both of these fight feel that they've won the fight, so somebody's going to be disappointed. The three judges, official judges, will have it probably slightly different from us. Here we go with the official announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the Budweiser scorecards. Glenn Hamada scores the bout 114 to 114. He has it even. Bob Logis scores the bout 115 to 114. And Jerry Roth scores the bout 115 to 113 for the winner by majority decision, de Puerto Rico and the unified welterweight champion.
What you felt at that
I
moment?
thought it was an outrage. I really believe to this day that Oscar De La Hoya won 8 out of the first 9 rounds. Easy. The last 3 rounds you could give to Trinidad because Oscar was, putting it in because he had won the fight. But I was sitting next to like a big gambler from the hotel he put next to me, and he said, "This isn't even a fight. De La Hoya is winning every round."
Yes.
And I believe that. Not that, now that the years have passed, Felix Trinidad is one of the nicest people that I've ever met.
Yes.
Great for the sport of boxing, but I really believe in my heart that De La Hoya won that fight.
So you feel that that night Oscar De La Hoya got robbed of that decision?
He got robbed. Yeah, he got robbed. Now, I'm not going to say, again, that there was anything funny going on and so forth. People can see things differently from me. People see things differently. And the judges were people that I knew. But again, and I told them after, see, how the hell could you have scored the fight that way? But again, they did. And Trinidad, got the decision.
But it was more.
Look. This, baseball. You're
Yes,
Puerto Rican, so you know baseball.
I love baseball.
Okay. The pitcher throws the ball. The ball goes right over the plate. Right over the plate, right? The appropriate height and so forth. Clearly a strike. The umpire calls it a ball.
Yes.
What is the pitch? The pitch is a ball.
Yes.
Because the umpire called it.
Yes.
So the judges gave the fight to Trinidad, so Trinidad won the fight. But if you ask me who I believed when I was watching it and afterward, who I believed won that fight, I believe De La Hoya won it.
Why we never saw Trinidad De La Hoya 2?
I think that there was a problem with the weight. I think Felix was having trouble
in the 147
with the welterweight, and he subsequently went up in weight. He was the naturally bigger guy.
Yes.
With De La Hoya. It was something like that with the weights, usual nonsense that goes on in boxing.
Usual nonsense. So boxing have changed, but not boxers' egos. And I'm pretty sure that for a lot of years you heard Muhammad Ali claim that he was the greatest. This generation has heard the same thing from Mayweather in the last 3 or 5 years. He's been saying, I'm undefeated, I'm the greatest. So probably we can settle this today.
I promoted Floyd for 10 and a half years.
Yes.
And Floyd is an incredible fighter, and he is one of the best defensive fighters of all time. And I don't know what it means, who's the greatest, who's not the greatest, but who's the most entertaining, and Mayweather wouldn't be in that group.
Mm-hmm. So if you have to say who deserved that crown, would you say Mayweather or you say Muhammad Ali?
Well, not even a question. I wouldn't mention Mayweather
in the same
Floyd
sentence.
In the same breath as Muhammad Ali.
Wow. So that's settled. Settling fights, it could be difficult, like a pain in the ass. I can understand that. But for us fans, it's frustrating because sometimes we feel that fights never happen when we want them to happen, like Pacquiao and Mayweather. We heard it all. Pacquiao's camp was claiming that Mayweather was scared. Mayweather was claiming that Pacquiao never agreed to the drug testing that they were requiring in order to make the fight happen. So I know that when it happened, financially you were satisfied because the pay-per-view sales went off the roof. But as a boxing fan, were you satisfied in what happened in the ring that night?
Well, I'm glad you started off with discussing my relationship with Don King, because even though that was bitter and it was all over the press, when it came time, the right time for a fight to be made, King was always there with his fighter, and I was always there with my fight. That is not the case any longer with this Al Heyman.
Yes.
I mean, he is in a different planet, a different world, and I'm sure he's very nice to his mother, and and he's probably nice to the people he works with, but he has a crazy view of life. He doesn't really look to see a fight that the public really wants to see, like Crawford and Spence.
Yes.
That fight should have been made 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
If Spence was promoted by Don King, guarantee you that fight, Spence and Crawford, would have happened.
Yeah, that's frustrating. So let's talk about this. Nowadays, everybody wants to be a promoter. We have seen a trend in the last couple of months of exhibition matches, not just from retired boxers, YouTubers, TikTokers. In your perception, is this hurting or helping the sport?
Well, again, it's an aberration, and in my opinion, it's not really boxing, and it'll pass. Now, are they doing anything wrong? No.
No. Business.
They're not putting a gun to anybody's head. If people are stupid enough to pay money to see these clowns fight, or they're supposedly fight, that's up to them. You take that Mayweather fight with that big guy, Paul. I mean, what a joke.
It was a joke.
A joke. I mean, and if people paid the money, and a substantial number did, and they lost the money, the truth is they weren't defrauded. Because if they had any brains, they would know that it was going to be a shit show.
Yes, definitely. So for many years, boxing ruled contact sports. There's a new kid on the block here. MMA and UFC as a company. Do you see them as a threat to boxing?
Yeah, I mean, they have succeeded beyond anybody's imagination. Now, how did they succeed? Well, they were good marketers, no question about that. But look what they've done. The fighters, it's a monopoly, the UFC.
Yes, UFC is a monopoly.
And the fighters get 20% of the revenue, right? In the UFC. And they can control the fighters and tell them when they fight and so forth. And that's their operation. Does it violate the antitrust laws? We're going to see, because there's a big class action suit. But they were been successful because, in my opinion, they have violated the antitrust law to the detriment of the young men and women that participate in the sport. Now look at boxing.
Yes.
The reason boxing has not been as successful is because Top Rank, Al Heyman, other promoters pay the fighters more than 80% of the revenue. That leaves only 20% for promotion and profit.
Yes.
Right? Big friggin' difference.
Big one.
Now, big difference, but at least we don't violate the law. At least there's competition for fighters and so forth. But again, that's it. Now, have they succeeded? I think yes. But again, if somebody has a gun and they go into a bank and rob a bank and they get the money, have they succeeded? Well, yes. They've come away with the money, but they violated the law.
Yes. So what's so unique about boxing that you do not find in other sports?
Well, boxing is unique because it gives kids the opportunity to go into a gym and to prepare themselves and to become prominent, to make a living. And it's different from, let's say, a baseball player. Baseball player, you know, starts out with a team, and then he has to get picked up by a major league team.
A scout, and then
a scout, yeah.
yeah.
Boxing is different. It's more of it is a one-on-one sport, and it gives more opportunities for people who really are interested in participating.
So you've been the promoter of more than 400 world title fights.
400? 4,000.
4,000, sorry. So I need to ask you this. Is Thrilla in Manila the greatest fight that you have ever witnessed?
The second greatest fight. Thriller in Manila was a great fight. It was like, I mean, I can see it right now. You know, the Araneta Coliseum in Manila was like an old building at that time. It hadn't been redone. It's been redone now. And it was dark. And the fight took place at 11 in the morning to be prime time back in the United States. But the building was dark. And these two guys went at it like I've never seen. Ali was winning the fight easy, and then Frazier comes on and looks like he's going to kill him, and then Ali recovers and blinds Frazier so he can't come out for the 15th round. Great fight. But the best fight that I've ever seen, the best, was Marvelous Marvin Hagler against Tommy Hearns. Those 3 rounds, I still see them. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Wow. So we were talking about rivalries earlier before, and I want to ask you this. Do you consider the rivalry between Puerto Rico and Mexico the biggest in boxing?
Oh, absolutely. There is no question, because as a gringo, and when I was back in the East, you know, the Hispanics were all Puerto Ricans and Dominican. And when I came out here, I suddenly saw Hispanics, but they were different. Now, at one particular point in time, I remember we were doing a telecast with Mexican fighters.
Okay.
And we sent out a Puerto Rican to be a commentator. And the people were complaining, what the hell, it's Spanish. I don't know what they're complaining about. But it's different.
It's different,
They
yes.
spoke differently, different accent, and so
Definitely.
forth, yeah. So the rivalry is intense, but it's almost like a respectful rivalry. You know what I mean? The Hispanic fighters, by and large, tend to be gentlemen and sportsmen, whether they're Puerto Ricans or Mexicans, and they have great respect for each other, but they always feel that rivalry.
Well, we have a sponsor here. It's called Huertas College. They're the pioneers in short careers in Puerto Rico, and they send us 3 questions because they want to know how much you know about boxing, about your sport. Are you ready? All right. Who is the only boxer to win 8 world titles in 8 different weight divisions?
Manny Pacquiao.
Manny Pacquiao. 1 for 1. Number 2, which fighter ended up with the record of 62 wins, 3 losses, and 2 draws, with 52 wins by knockout?
Trinidad.
Nope.
Who?
Marvin Hagler.
Marvin Hagler, that's right. I forgot he had these 2 losses. That was before me.
Yes.
I didn't promote those fights. They were in
There's
Philadelphia.
a story.
He really didn't lose those fights.
Yeah, there's a story that Don King tried to do the same thing with Hagler. Is that true?
What?
To try, to lure him.
No, what happened was, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, may rest in peace, was the most loyal fighter that I ever promoted. So there was one night in Worcester, Massachusetts, which is outside of Boston, where he was fighting Tony Simpson, a top contender from England. And we went to the fight. It was cold and so forth. And Don King was there just as a, as a onlooker. And when the fight was over, you couldn't walk out of the building. There was like 2 feet of snow, and it was hard getting back to the hotel. So we were all stuck backstage in the arena. And King went to Marvin Hagler's mother.
Yes.
And he said to Marvin Hagler's mother, "Why is Marvin with this Jew? He should be with a
me,
black guy."
Black guy,
right,
yes.
Right.
The same
and
story.
so she then went to Marvin that night and said what King had said, and Marvin got enraged. And he said, "If you ever talk to that man again, I'm not your son."
Wow.
Yeah. So Marvin was the most
how
loyal guy.
he
Yeah.
was.
Look, I'll tell you another story.
All right.
Our loyalty. When Ray Leonard was retired,
Okay.
and I had a beef. He was a pretty good guy, but at that point I had a beef with his manager, Mike Trainer.
Okay.
So when Leonard came out of retirement and he wanted to fight Hagler, Trainer announced that he wanted to do the fight, and he told the Petronellis, who were the manager. and trainer of Marvin, that Top Rank, the Bob Arum, couldn't be involved. So they went back to Marvin, and Marvin said, "I don't know if I'm going to do the fight, but if I do the fight, unless Top Rank is involved, I'm not going to do it." So it ended up, and he stood his ground, that Trainer said, "Okay, then Leonard is not going to fight for a percentage, but he wants the money up front, the guarantee." So I guaranteed Ray, one of the greatest guys in the world, I guaranteed Ray $11 million. Marvin fought for a percentage and made $19 million. And talk to Ray about it. He'll never forgive me for it.
Wow. All right, number 3. He was a heavyweight fighter that won 73% of his fight by knockout, compared to 60% for Ali or 84% for Foreman.
Tyson?
Nope.
Who?
Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier.
But he fought a lot of bums. He fought
Really?
Zieglerwitz. Yeah. See, what happened was when Ali and Frazier fought in 1971, and Frazier clearly won that fight and got the decision. Frazier had Yank Durham, an old-time boxing guy, and so he had Frazier fight once a year against Zieglerwitz and and Ron Stander, against bums, right? We had to do something clever for Ali, so we had Ali fight every 2 months against Ellis and Mathis and
tough competition.
Every guy. So even though Frazier had won the fight and was the champion, people considered Ali still the champion.
Still the champ. Yeah. That's great. All right, we have a tradition here, because it's too early, we're not gonna do no shots now. But I have to ask you a question. We have a tradition. You can see that different people that I have interviewed for this season has signed my shoes.
Right.
So I will be honored if you can do the same thing before the 3 questions to finish the interview.
All right, where do I sign?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have to choose between silver, black, or bronze.
A black.
Black. Okay. And left or right?
Left. There's
Left.
more room.
Okay. Sorry. They're new. I only use them for the interview. So there you have it. And I will be. You can do it here. No, it's already out.
Oh.
There you go. Here.
Where?
Do it here.
Okay.
Thank you very
Welcome.
much. Let me put it back in. Okay. So these last 3 questions, I'm gonna mention 4 boxers and you're gonna tell me which one is the best top rank fighter right now. Teofimo Lopez, Tyson Fury, Terence Crawford, Vasil Lomachenko.
What do you think? I'm crazy? I'm going to answer that question. If I answer that question, I make one guy happy and 3 guys unhappy. And I mean, I don't like those odds.
So, in your eyes, who is the best Latino boxer of all time?
The best Latino boxer of all time. Oh, jeez, there's so many of them. I would say it would be between Trinidad and maybe Manuel Marquez. Those were at least 2 of my favorite. I mean, Oscar was there. What about Oscar? Oscar was Latino, but
yeah, from
he
the
was
States.
American.
Yeah. Well, Juan Manuel Marquez is one of my.
Oh, what a great!
I'm a huge fan of him.
Smartest guy in the world. It was great. I really got a big kick. You know, I had him in all these fights with Pacquiao. I was promoting that, and one of my great memories is negotiating purses with Marquez.
The first fight that I saw of Juan Manuel Marquez, it was Manny Pacquiao's and Juan Manuel Marquez's first fight.
Oh.
And when I saw that, I was like, what's happening here? That first round was epic.
3 knockdowns.
3 knockdowns. And he recovered from that, and the fight ended up in a draw by a mistake in the card. It was
because
crazy.
3 knockdowns is a 10-7 round.
10-7 round.
And one judge scored a 10-8.
10-8. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, if you have the opportunity to have Muhammad Ali in his prime to give his most furious punch to a boxer, which boxer would you choose to receive it?
One thing about him is, as I recollect, even though there were great rivalries, and even though he belittled Frazier, which was a little off base,
yes,
Muhammad Ali really respected his opponents, and didn't demean his opponents, and so I just really couldn't answer that.
No,
question.
don't worry. It was kind of a joke, probably,
right,
for us. But I want to say thank you for this huge opportunity.
Okay, good.
This is my first time in Vegas, and I'm pretty sure that I could come back 20 times, and nothing is gonna top this opportunity.
I guess the next time I'll see you is, we hope in February to start doing fights again in Puerto Rico with ESPN, and we're talking to the tourist people, and we're looking to February to have a big show. We have such great talent, Xander,
upcoming talent, Berlanga, Sanders,
Pedraza,
yes, Pedraza. So, well, you're welcome whenever you want.
No, I love it. Listen, I miss it. I mean, I did so many fights, particularly when we were promoting Cotto. In Puerto Rico, and it was always a great time. My wife loved it. The hotels are great. The one thing I miss, but I'll never see again, is the El San Juan Hotel on a Friday night, smoking a cigar. You can't do that anymore. I don't know why, but you can't.
Yeah, you can. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Pleasure. Okay.
Thank you.